We'll start with that. What is Jon Morosi's day-to-day as a analyst insider at the MLB winter meetings?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I love the winter meetings. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. And so like this morning, I'm proud of myself. I got up. I think I was up at like 6:10. Got a run in downstairs, which was great. Which I think is important. You got to do something to get yourself moving at the start of the day. Good for your mind. Good for your focus and concentration. You got to get yourself into a good routine. Now, in my younger years, I would have stayed up all night, not drinking, just talking and like walking around the whole lobby. But I've come to realize that you also have to take care of yourself, especially early in the week. It's still only, what day is it, Tuesday? Yeah. So we've got to pace ourselves here. I'm going to be here until middle of the day Thursday. So I've got to make sure I'm pacing myself now in my old age. So I've got to make sure I handle that. But it's a lot of fun. And so I want to make sure that I think being up early is good. And then you get this morning was the bat breakfast. So congratulations. Eduardo Perez is the new president of BAT, the baseball assistance team. Really important organization that helps out people in the baseball family who need financial assistance, counseling, a lot of different things in their lives that help them out. So I went to that breakfast, which is a really important part. I'm really honored that I've been invited to that, and I really just enjoy the people there. So, and Buck Martinez, the outgoing president, amazing person as well. So I was honored to be there for that. And then you kind of go right into the flow of news. And I was on Hot Stove this morning. We had the World Baseball Classic Media Day. I did some interviews. You sneak in a quick lunch. Did some interviews down there with Bleacher Report and John Heyman. I was on that show today. So you just try to balance it all out. And, I did one more. I did radio this morning as well, in between all the exercise and the bat breakfast. So you keep moving. And then you keep moving until you fall down and go to sleep. And then you get up and do it the next day. But I think you have to love the people. The people are what bring you the joy, and seeing people that you maybe haven't seen in a while. We're all looking for scoops, but I really value the relationships that we have with people here. And I try to remind myself of how blessed we are to do this and to be in a place where we all love the same thing. Oh, yeah. It's pretty unique in life to be around people that support what you love and what you enjoy doing, and get a chance to talk to you guys today is really a blessing too.
Yeah, it's fun talking shop, and it's also a good indication of just how much is going on down here.
Yeah, there's a lot,
because there's a lot of people looking for jobs. The BAT program is phenomenal. That was one each year when I was still playing. We'd have the representation come in and talk to us and what it means and what they can do. And then there's the chaos that everyone is looking for, and there hasn't been a lot of chaos. Not like us in Dallas, Texas. Let's get some barbecue. Oh, hey, Juan Soto signed. Yeah. Hey, John, watch out for that pole right there.
We were together. We were together when it all happened, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, still you got your spidey senses of just moving out of the way when you're about to.
I remember that. Yeah, I mean, I might still be there if I had not like evaded that pole. So for our viewers and listeners, the little full context there, we were hanging out at the same barbecue joint across the street from the hotel last year in Texas when the Juan Soto news happened, and then I was scrambling, going back to the hotel, trying to get my everything confirmed and figured out what I was going to say on TV, and then I almost ran myself right into a pole.
Oh yeah,
but Ryan basically, it's almost like hey, John, heads up. Okay, here we go. So I had to make sure I avoided it. It's almost like avoiding a collision in the outfield, like two outfielders going for the same ball, calling you off at the right time. I was fortunate. I had a great teammate in Ryan Ripken to guide me away from the peril there.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here.
I did feel like you're watching it happen in motion, and I actually felt I'm a big Happy Gilmore fan. So the first Happy Gilmore, I think Virginia's yelling out because she sees the car running on the golf course. It's like, Happy, look out, huh? I'm like, John, look out, pole. And then you just not even breaking a move. You just slide.
Just slide a little bit.
And you're just used to all the chaos in every sense. A little bit of chaos so far. I mean, finally the first domino falls. Mm-hmm. Kyle Schwarber, there's no shock there. He liked Philly, and not just he loved Philly. He thinks he can win there. The offer that he wanted got matched, at least from what we're seeing around. He goes back. Now we're wondering the next domino. It seems like the buzz is more around Alonso right now than people are sleeping on Kyle Tucker. He's out there too, but it does seem the polar bear is one of the next guys that people are focusing on. And there are teams, especially a team in Baltimore, that could use a bat like that. What's kind of your feeling or sense of what you are hearing so far in a timeline and what it's going to take for Pete Alonso to maybe go to a team like Baltimore or leave the New York Mets altogether?
I think there's at least a 50-50 chance that Pete Alonso is leaving. I do. Now, I think there are more teams than Baltimore involved. I mean, Boston is right there. I think Alonso at Fenway Park would be scary for the rest of the American League East. I think, though, and I mentioned this with John a little bit earlier, the Orioles, I'm told, they like Kyle Tucker too. And it makes sense, right? Because we had heard there were some reports about the O's having interest in Schwarber. Well, Schwarber and Tucker have the same agent. And also, let's not forget who was the scouting director who drafted Kyle Tucker in Houston, Mike Elias. So there's a connection there. He knows him well. And I think at the end of the day, if you're going to make a significant investment, and it feels to me like the Orioles are ripe for a big-time investment. They sort of passed that window, the chance to really go big at the 2024 trade deadline, and really very little has gone right for them since then.
Yeah.
It seems like now is the time for them to make that statement that we are back. We realize the error in our ways, and let's take the chance to be a little more aggressive and make a big signing. I think they could also very easily make a big signing on the pitching side of the equation. I don't think their rotation is finished yet.
Yeah.
I know they've worked on that a little bit, and certainly trading Grayson was to help their outfield. But I look at that as being an option for them to still bring in more pitching to make their roster better.
It feels that their offseason is unfinished. It does.
I agree.
And also, though, they have to beat the perception that they're going to actually sign one of these big guys. You know, and I hate it for Mike Elias in that front office for that example, because Kyle Schwarber, we just mentioned, everything points to go back to Philly. And then also you hear that the Pirates are interested.
Right.
But for the Pirates as well as Baltimore, how do you convince a guy there? Money helps. But do I think it's my best chance to win? Do I believe that you guys can get it done? But you feel like just talking about it, the inkling to you seems different this year. Of course, Kyle Tucker, the connection there, it makes a lot of sense. But in the past, it was we have young guys here already. We have enough. It seems like this offseason, there's an acknowledgement we still like our young guys, but if we're going to compete with Boston, New York, Toronto, and then you can never sleep on the Rays, they're just clockwork. They figure it out.
Right.
They have to get better. In this case, it seems like they have to go out and get a couple big names that can help solidify their ranking in the AL East.
That's right. And I think when you look at the big picture of the way the American League East is shaking out, if you had to rank those 5 teams right now, strength of rosters that are currently set, the players they've got today, I still think Toronto right now has the best roster. I mean, they've been the most aggressive this offseason. But remember, the Yankees will get Garrett Cole back, and that's a significant change. They really want to bring back Cody Bellinger. You're seeing a lot of the same teams that are competing for similar players. Bellinger, obviously, Mets and Yankees. Tucker, we believe, again. You consider the Blue Jays there, maybe the Giants, Dodgers, Orioles, I think are significantly part of that. But it's that same collection of players. Now, to sort of circle back to the Schwarber conversation that you alluded to, if you're the Orioles, and certainly if you're the Pirates, you're not, the goal is not to level up and have the same offer as the incumbent team. You have to go past it. Yeah. You have to overpay. And if you are disciplined, this is why this sport is so hard. If you are disciplined, you will finish perfectly second and third for every player that you want.
And that's the perception that they've been fighting.
You cannot just finish second and third. It's like, now again, the Jays live that reality. They were finishing second on Ohtani, on Soto, on Sasaki, you name it, Yamamoto. They were finishing second all the time. And until they started winning some bidding. They got Santander. And then they had some things fall into place for them this season. And then they went out and they were super aggressive on Cease.
Yeah.
I think that you have to probably, I'm going to overgeneralize here.
Yep.
But I think it's a fair statement that often, not always, often, you have to step way outside your comfort zone. Maybe not way outside, but outside your comfort zone, and go a little above market for the player you want to eventually build a culture and build a roster that earns you the right to pay what is more commonly described as market value for people in the future.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh,
once you have, so think about the Nationals. You saw it, you lived it.
Yep.
So they bring in Jason Worth, and then eventually players wanted to play there.
Yeah.
And you started seeing players, and again, Max Scherzer's deal was very healthy, but it wasn't like bonkers like what people thought Worth's deal was. And so you eventually, through your success and your reputation, you earn the right to pay more of a market value for the players that you want. But you have to start out, as the Tigers did 2 decades ago, as the Nationals did with Worth. You got to start out by being a little bit outside of your realm to be able to then build the infrastructure that you need to create a better, healthier organization.
And I'm glad you explained that, because all the time people say that the Orioles are striking out, or any of the smaller markets are striking out, but it's not just as complicated as saying, well, hey, we put out money. Has to be a belief in the culture that you're setting forward. And when you see it happen once, you believe it can happen again.
That's right.
And, it leads me to this then, John, kind of wrapping this up. So in this case, it seems what we're hearing, the Orioles match the offer. 150 is what Schwarber got. So if that's what they offered, substantial. But you're saying if you got to overpay, is that 10 million more? Is that 20 million more? Do you go even higher? And now you're looking at Pete Alonso. Pete would love a 5-year deal. That would be aggressive to see. But if you give a 5-year deal, would that give you a hand up? Probably. Would you give $40 million a year to Pete Alonso? That's what teams are worried about. But it feels like if Kyle Schwarber got a $30 million per year deal, people
as a DH,
and Pete is going to play first, but also considered a DH type. But he's going to want 35 to 40 million. That kind of seems there. What are the Orioles then, if you think, or any of these teams, to pry away from the big markets, to keep them away? What for Alonso do you think it would take? And for Kyle Tucker, I think is the question mark there. How much higher does a team like Baltimore have to go?
So I think that they will have to go a little higher on Alonso than they, in relative terms, than they would on Tucker. Okay. We'll see what Tucker's AAV ends up being. Obviously, Tucker's going to be a longer-term deal.
Yep.
So you have more years over which to make up any differences and fluctuations with the AAV. I think that Alonso's AAV needs to be above what Schwarber got. Is that 33 a year? Is that 34 a year times 4 or 5? I think if the Orioles or the Red Sox, for that matter, offer Alonso 33 or 34 million a year over 5 years, that's probably a winning bid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my view. And then with respect to Tucker, it's going to be longer.
Yeah.
But maybe not quite as high in the AAV. If you look at Tucker's numbers compared, Ryan, to Bellinger, it's quite similar.
It's comparable. Yeah.
For 2025. So I think if I'm Cody Bellinger, I would almost want to wait until Tucker signs and then say, listen, I'm at least as good as he is. And oh, by the way, I can play first base for you too. All 3 outfield positions. I think it's a really compelling way. So if in a vacuum, if you could time it out perfectly, I think that Scott would prefer Tucker signs first and then Bellinger says, hey, look at my numbers, and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it's going to look on that. The hitter side, people worry about the longevity. How well are you going to post up and put up numbers? But there aren't many guys out there that has the offensive firepower that those guys have. But then the pitching side, the only thing that scares teams, long-term contracts.
Correct.
But as far as the AAV for that, I feel like they're willing to shell out $30 million a year. But I'm curious how it is, because that means we're going to see what's going to happen with guys like Ranger Suarez, Valdez, Gallen. And I think what we saw with Dylan Cease, if you really love a guy, then you can go and get him and be aggressive, because that market, it seems like the more aggressive offer is going to win. Yeah, you got me thinking about a lot of things here, John.
Hey, Ryan, I appreciate it. Well, you make me think too. You ask a lot of great questions. do a great job on the show. So we really enjoy our conversation.
I appreciate you, John.
Thanks,
Enjoy the
Ryan.
rest of the meetings.
All the best. You too. Thanks so much. Thank you.